about also. These famous or infamous, whatever you want to call them, cartoons, have not been published by the Danish government. They have been published by private independent newspapers, who of course enjoy freedom of the press and freedom of expression. So it is not in any way something that the government has been involved in, nor condoned or supported. Okay? I think it's important to remember that.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister, and I have, I'll give you this so you can read this. The Prime Minister, and there are a number of copies so you can distribute it among your friends. The Prime Minister has time and again emphasized the fact that he in no way can condone anything that demonizes nor offends other religions. Okay? But at the same time, of course, he's emphasized that as a Prime Minister of a democracy which puts a lot of emphasis on freedom of expression, freedom of the press, he cannot deny the press the right to publish these things, regardless what his private and personal feelings might be about the appropriateness of the cartoon. Okay? One thing. Another thing I noticed when I read through this quickly, I noticed that you also mentioned a Dutch movie.
Yeah.
Now, that's a Dutch movie. It's not a Danish movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie which will be, I don't think it has come out yet, but it's will probably come out in Holland, in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And that's a different matter. But again, in principle, it's the same. The Dutch government cannot decide what kind of movies people can make. It doesn't mean that you cannot, in Denmark, for example, it is possible to go after, to prosecute groups which are racist or which are conducting themselves in a manner which is defamatory to other religions. You can do that.
Yeah.
But first, the initial thing is that there is a freedom of expression under responsibility. That means that if the freedom of expression has been used in such a way as to break the law, then of course you can go after the newspapers, right? And the same thing, I don't want to get involved in the Dutch case, and the case as far as Holland is concerned, but the same thing goes, of course, in other democracies, okay? So we listen to you. I think it's important that we talk. The Danish government has, ever since the first cartoon issue started, and even way before that, has always been very much involved in dialogue with the Muslim community throughout the world, through the Middle East and so on. I myself, I served as ambassador to Saudi Arabia, and before that to Kuwait, and before that to the United Arab Emirates. So I spent 10 years in the Middle East. And I know and I respect that part of the world. So I've been there. I've been in Riyadh for 5 years. I was in Kuwait for 2 years, in Abu Dhabi for 3 years. So I know this part of the world. Yeah. And I have many Muslim friends.
Oh, that's great.
And I have very fond memories of my 10 wonderful years in that part of the world.
Yeah, you're right, but the thing is, of course, maybe it seems a little bit different that we have came to you.
No,
but you see, in all Muslim world, and especially also in non-Muslim countries, everywhere this situation is going on. Like in UK, yesterday there was a protest, and people, they went there to the embassy and they submitted their concerns. Like in Muslim countries, people, they have more violence. And they break the things, and maybe they also injure each other. But we have adopted a very peaceful way to submit our concerns so that we can take care of any violence in this, at least in our knowledge.
Yeah. I think it's very important to talk.
Yeah.
It's very important to have dialogue. It's very important to understand what the real situation is.
Yes, right.
That, as I said, these cartoons have never been supported, endorsed, or in any way been given a positive comment from the Danish government. The Danish government does not have a stand on these cartoons.
Right.
But these cartoons are made by private people who use their expression of the freedom of expression and freedom of the press. And
okay, I want to add something like freedom of expression is of course by the private sector, and the government has given this rule for the private sector to make their freedom of expression. Of course, it's been permission has been given by the government, and this if they are using it to oppress or to hurt the feelings of the other religion, then this can, of course, somehow affect the economy or some situations within the country which can be not good or for the government as well. So do you think there is some thing that or some alteration in this or some control that government will take to on this private sector in order to keep the government, the Danish government, peaceful and a good economy? And if all the Muslim countries, if they boycott the Danish products or something, so of course the economy will go down, the exports will go down. So what do you say about that?
First of all, you use the expression private sector. That makes it sound as if you're talking about business. We're talking about something which is a fundamental part of the Danish constitution, right? The constitution is like the basic law of a society, which includes a number of guarantees. Freedom of religion is one, freedom of expression is another one, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, that you are allowed to demonstrate as you are doing now. Yeah. These are things that are guaranteed to every citizen, everybody who lives and works and so on in Denmark. Is there a debate about it? There has been a lot of debate about it. But I think that most people cherish this freedom of expression so much. They think it's a very, very fundamental, very, very important principle. And I think a lot of people in Denmark, but also in many other countries, feel that the countries that have not always respected the freedom of expression have often had serious problems. That it's not a real democracy if there is no freedom of expression.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that there are some people who have very strongly criticized these people who made the cartoons. There are lots of people who have strongly criticized the newspapers who printed them. And even more people who have strongly criticized the newspapers for reprinting them, as they have done now after 2 years. Yeah. That also was because of the fact that there was a death threat. Not only that, but there was actually there was a plan to actually try to kill one of the people who made the original cartoons by a group of extremists. Now that's what provoked this. That's why it happened. I'm not saying whether this is a reasonable way to do it or not.
Okay, right.
I'm just saying that the reason they were reproduced and reprinted was simply because the police uncovered this conspiracy to kill one of the cartoonists, and that's why you have this reaction. But there's been a lot of debate about it.
Okay. Right.
Freedom of expression means also you have the freedom to criticize the journalists who print them, the newspapers who printed and reprinted these cartoons, or the cartoonists who made them. There's been a lot of criticism.
Okay, right.
Some people have said that these cartoons are without any kind of artistic value. They're not even interesting as art or anything like that. Politically, some people have said they're uninteresting. So that's part of a very sort of robust, lively debate that you have in a democracy. People have different opinions.
Right.
And that's the way it should be.
Okay.
But it is not the government who has printed, nor is it the government that has any responsibility for the fact that they were printed.
Okay.
But the government always will protect the right of the newspaper under a sense of responsibility to print whatever they want.
Right.